Hi friends, Michelle Giles here with Zee Design and Build, and I'm here live in studio with Erik Christenson, Zee Design and Build CEO and Visionaire. Today we are going to be talking about what home renovations add the most value to your property. This is an important topic because I know that homeowners are definitely seeking where they can get the most bang for their buck, if you will. And so we just want to enlighten and give some information and some frequently asked questions. I'm going to be asking Erik, and he's going to give us some answers on what he sees in the market and what will add the most value. So Erik, can you tell us what are the top 3 home renovations that consistently add the most value to a property?
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say first and foremost is going to be the kitchen. The kitchen really be due to the fact that you are in it day in and day out. That's where the family gathers. That's where you have parties. That's where you're, inviting and spending time with guests. But at the same time, you're cooking meals and, really just it's family time.
They always say kitchen is the heart of the home.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, in general, I would definitely say that it would have to be the kitchen for sure. Not only for all those reasons, but at the same time, there's just a lot of older homes that have not been updated for decades, and fads come and go. So definitely upgrading, whether it be cabinets and countertops and flooring, like kind of lipstick kind of stuff, or even just tearing a wall down to make the area larger or feel larger. Brighter, yeah, exactly. Or just even the fact of creating kind of an open space between, say, like a family room and a kitchen. So then if and when you are cooking in the kitchen, you can still be communicative. You can still be interactive with the people that are in that other room, so you're not feeling kind of closed off.
Absolutely. So the kitchen, okay. And then what are the other 2 you would say renovations add the most value?
I'd probably say the next one up would definitely be the master bathroom. Again, similar reasons. You're dealing with a lot of old school ways of doing things. Like sometimes that you'll see, I'll go into clients' homes and I'll see tub decks that are 10 feet tall, 10 feet long, and 5-6 feet wide, and just a lot of unused and just wasted space. So you could easily shrink down that space, enlarge the shower, potentially give a freestanding tub, and have more walk-in room. Again, making when those kinds of spaces get kind of cleared away, the room becomes and feels larger. So it's more inviting, and again, you're every morning you're getting ready for work, you're getting ready for the day, whatever it might be. Just having that space, kind of like a feng shui kind of feel, that you're having that sense of, hey, I'm kind of proud of my place. It's energetic. It's freeing almost sometimes, to the level of having the ability of, again, like you've said before, brighter,
right?
More inviting. Just all of those different rounds and pieces really kind of tie in. And another part about the master bathroom is really, this goes back to older homes more specifically. Back in the 70s and 80s, whenever it was like, hey, let's just do carpet in our bathrooms. And nowadays we're all thinking, what the heck just happened? Why did people do this? It creates mold. It creates that weird, eerie feeling.
What in the 1970s just happened?
Yeah, exactly. So just, I think that's really kind of a step up, and this goes back to really, and the third one we'll be talking about in a minute, but really all 3 of these, and really any home renovations that we do or the client would do, is beneficial to their resale. It's beneficial to their value of their home. It's beneficial to their life in general. So that's what I kind of enjoy, helping with the clients and doing that kind of nature.
Absolutely. So the kitchen, the master bathroom, and then what would you say the third one is?
I think that's going to be a kind of a toss up here, and really it just depends on the home itself. But in general, how to manage and make the home itself an efficient space.
Okay.
So, for instance, going back into the kitchen, knocking down walls to make a more inviting space to make it feel more open, to make it feel larger. I would go across the board on most of the homes that back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s even. They were creating just, hey, here's a space for the dining room, here's a space for the living room,
Right.
here's a space for the kitchen. They were all separate rooms. Really kind of how to open up the home, not just for the kitchen and not just for the master bathroom, but just opening up the home to make sense of the space, to kind of free up natural light, to give a sense of more depth. Really, it's one of those things where I actually talk to a lot of clients about this when we go into it, because I not only do I look at what the client wants, but what the future may hold for this home for the clients is if they plan on living in the home for 5 or 10 years, or they plan on living it for 20 years, or they just plan on living it for the next 2 years. Well, I also want to look at resale value, and we're not going to do purple and pink polka dot wallpaper, and we're not going to do, again, carpet in the bathroom, because no one and their mother are not going to come into the home and be like, oh, I really like this, let's buy it. It's going to be an off tilt feeling for clients to say, or potential buyers of the home to say, this doesn't work and why it doesn't work. Kind of that mental subconscious that you don't really realize until you're buying or selling a home. Kind of the thought process in that level. So the ability to provide for future resale, future value. I can really say that I'm generalizing this third option, but the ability to do something to update your home.
Like make the space more functional.
Exactly.
And just make it so it's more livable and it makes more sense, makes the most sense.
Exactly.
For not only the people living there, but, potentially if they ever want to sell.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to question number 2. How can homeowners prioritize their renovation projects to maximize the return on their investment?
That's a great question. To maximize and to prioritize, I would definitely say that what is the most important to the client and what is most important to the reasoning that they're wanting to prioritize, or the reasoning that they're wanting to remodel, or whatever construction that they're wanting to do. Priorities wise, I would probably say that if as far as the rooms go, what are the most important rooms that we're going to be touching? Kitchens, bathrooms, living rooms, whatever, even additions, comparatively to bedrooms, like the children's bedrooms or the guest bedrooms is the as far as priority goes, what the level of resale is also as well. So kitchens, master bathrooms, hallway bathrooms, dining areas, the first floor would be kind of top on that list. But at the same time, back to just us as a Zee design and build firm, what we really focus on is the construction aspect of it rather than the finishes aspect of it. So giving a client allocations, giving them pricing so they can kind of choose as far as priorities go is, hey, here's the budget, and how can we really give them the full extent of these priorities if they need to do it in different phases. But really in general, my top one as far as priorities go would definitely have to be what is best for resale and value of the home. And that might be a better way to kind of put it, is just the value, because if you plan on being in the home for long term.
Well, that's the thing, like with return on investment, it's like it's return on investment, their time in the home and what they're wanting to get out of it, but also return on the investment 10 years from now, we're selling. Return on investment can mean so many different things, right?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah, because, as far as return on investment goes too, is the fact of where do you spend a lot of time in your
Right.
home? And a lot of people, especially in the last few years, with the epidemic and whatnot, that people were working from home and still are working from home more often, is really if they have their office space that they've turned from a bedroom into it, and they're like, I'm here, 40 hours a week. Let's see how we can kind of give them a refresh or an
Exactly.
update, so then they feel that they can be a part of the work without it kind of feeling like, oh, I'm going to have to go into the guest bedroom again and have to do a Zoom meeting and how to handle that.
Absolutely. So basically, just prioritizing comes down to what the client wants and where
Basically.
they feel is going to be the most,
Yeah.
useful for them at the end of the day.
And at the same time, like I say this often to clients, is that we'll sell ourselves out of work, in the sense of that we will, if a client says, hey, we want to do something that's just so off the cuff or just so extravagant and it doesn't make sense for their value of their home, their return on investment, I'm going to mention it to them. At the very least, say, hey, this may not be something that I would suggest doing.
Right.
Give them opinions, because and it's not really turning them down or shutting their ideas down. It's more of just giving them a second pair of eyes.
Yeah.
To kind of give that visual, and a lot of our clients really appreciate and respect that. And
100%.
it really just gives, this whole reason of doing these things in the first place is education. It's not to really sell us on, hey, we want to be your next contractor. We want to educate the people that would be watching and listening to this, that can give their knowledge, so when they do, whether they work with us or they work with another contractor, whatever the case may be, they're more knowledgeable about all these kinds of things.
Hence the reason why we're doing this video series.
Exactly.
It's all educational, for those people who are looking for renovations or remodels. So I'm going to move on to question number 3. Are there specific trends in home design or features that are currently popular to increase the value? Like, what have you seen? There was that farmhouse trend.
Mm-hmm.
There's been like the open space trend. There's the classic, obviously the classic, what are you seeing right now that's really making some headway out there?
Great question. I would say, as far as trends go, I've seen it really more recently kind of just be very open-ended. Back in the 90s, you had the pastels and just the greens, the blues, the peaches, all that kind of stuff. Again, carpet in the bathrooms. Nowadays, I feel like you can, back in the mid-century modern, from the 50s and 60s, or Craftsman, or the lack of a better word, the farm chic kind of
Right.
way of doing things. I really see it's more of it's not only open-ended, but just, I think there's so many different ideas and likes and dislikes that I'm actually kind of glad to have that, rather than have, hey, we just have one certain thing that is done.
100%.
And I think that's what's kind of nice about where we are in this society nowadays. So as far as return on investment and just like what, where they see and the trends and all that, really would kind of go with what the client wants. Most people, if not a majority of the people, are going to have a good head on their shoulders, and they're not going to be like, hey, let's do black cabinets, or you name it. Just for their home, it's not something that they're going to go backwards on, 2 steps backwards kind of thought. So,
Some people are wanting that minimalism look right now.
Exactly.
Like, it's very, popular. So there's that trend, the minimalism trend. There's obviously the trends of all the mosaic tiles and, all of that. There's so much that you can do.
There is.
It's kind of taking the space and like making it personal.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of a better way to kind of put it. And I think you hit the nail right on the head there, is when we go and work with clients, the ability to kind of not give them our ideas and push our ideas and thoughts onto it as more of what their ideas are. Our goal is to bring their dreams into reality. And I feel like I'm speaking from just our slogans that we talk about all the time. But
right.
really, that's the whole purpose with the fact of being able to kind of luckily be empathetic and read people and be able to bring people's dreams to that reality and to real life is more of a joy than saying, hey, I built this 100th home of craftsman style, of modern style. Because we work with a lot of clients that have on one end, the farm chic, the modernism, the craftsman style from the 20s. So I think that's kind of where it's very open-ended. It gives the clients really what they're wanting to do. Mm-hmm. And it makes them happy because at the end of the day, it's their home. They're going to be living in it. It's not 100%. It's not something that we're going to be living in. And so I may not like exactly what they like, but at the same time, I'm proud to do something for them.
And they can come to you and show a trend.
Exactly.
And this is what I'm loving.
Yeah.
And then, okay, liking this too. How is this going to make the most sense in this space and leading them, down the right path in the direction, how they can use a certain trend and make it their own.
Just to summarize, really, too, is the fact that it gives them free will, and being that I don't at least see a trend that everyone's following.
Yep.
It's nice to not have an assembly line of construction. It's nice to have people have their own ideas, and that's one of my favorite parts about it is that I can design and I can produce and give to a client rather than saying, hey, we're going to be doing cookie cutter style work, because that's not enjoyable for me. And I don't think that, especially when we do custom stuff, that's the whole purpose of custom, is what the client wants to have created.
100%. So I think that this is kind of a hot topic, this next question, because people like to cut corners sometimes, right?
Shortcuts, yeah.
Cut on cost. So when it comes to the quality of materials used in renovations and that adding value to a home, how important is the actual quality?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and I could be talking for hours specifically on this. A really good example of quality would be just the first one that pops into my head is home improvement store, because I don't want to list any of their names, but home improvement store stock cabinets versus a Swedish brand cabinet company that is in our state, comparatively to these there's semi-custom cabinets, and then there's the full custom cabinets. The benefit of just those four different realms comes with the fact that the latter lower two, or the first two cabinet companies that I spoke about, are going to give particle board products, and they're going to give products that are half-inch wide or thick plywood particle board, I should say, material that is going to break easily. There's not a lot of features to these cabinets.
Right.
So when it's really the feel of, when a customer, tests out a home improvement store cabinet versus a semi-custom cabinet, you can feel the difference. There's ball bearing glides in the semi-custom cabinets where it's just a plastic wheel on a rail for the low end cabinets. And so having the knowledge that there is of course a price tag that comes with this
100%
is really, it kind of goes back to, for me, it goes back to we're more construction oriented rather than finishes oriented. And what that really means is that we focus on the construction aspect of our design and builds, because if we have a client choosing one of those 4 specific cabinets styles because of their budget,
Right.
we're not gonna turn them away or make them feel bad or try to upsell. But at the same time, we do give recommendations saying, hey, I would definitely recommend doing the semi-custom cabinets because you're going to get a better product that's going to last longer. It's going to be more durable. So as your partner, your spouse, your children, your roommates, whatever it is, are going to be opening and closing the drawers every single day. And, within a year or so or a couple of years, they're going to fall apart when you don't buy the right products. It really just, it comes down to longevity. Mm-hmm. And so as far as the products go and the lack of a better word, the quality of this product comes with the knowledge that you pay for what you get. So having them have something, whether it's, there are affordable semi-custom cabinets that doesn't break the bank. And so we can make stuff look luxurious, very similar to tile too. There's just so many different variables of finishes and products that we can provide or that are provided out in this world that can make it look like it's Italian tile that had come from Italy, but it's not $35-40 a square foot having to be shipped from here. So,
but is it as durable?
But yeah, exactly. So that's the part, is it's still durable. But it's the price tag. Again, it's how do I put this? I guess in general, my way of thinking is I'd rather buy a $100 toaster than a $10 toaster 10 times. Because it's my time, it's my effort, it's really having to spend the money and having to go to the store every single time because my $10 toaster breaks down, rather than having a $100 toaster last for who knows however long. So as far as durability and costs, they obviously do go hand in hand most of the time, but there are ways to save without doing the shortcuts, without doing the cutting of corners to say, hey, well, this home improvement store's cabinet is, say, $100. Well, we could find a semi-custom cabinet for that same style cabinet for probably double the price, but at the same point, how long is that going to last? Right. The durability, like you said, is that $200 cabinet is going to last tenfold. So in reality, you're saving money.
It's lifetime, some are lifetime warranties, others are not. Obviously, there's things that are going to happen. Same with flooring, right? Yeah. Okay, we want it to look really cool and really beautiful, but we're going to use, not the real hardwoods. We're using engineered.
Engineered, yeah.
Is that making a difference?
I think that there's pros and cons to just, especially if we're talking just flooring in general, there's pros and cons to each. Okay. There's the hardwoods. That's kind of like the top tier kind of product. Right. But at the same time, you get water to them, they break down, they break, they fall apart, your wood floors get damaged. Wood and water don't like to mix. But at the same point, then you can have engineered hardwoods that are more durable, water resistant, because I don't like to use the word waterproof because that's not really a thing, even though everyone tries to sell it. It's not a thing because water will do its thing no matter what. But water resistant, so then if you do spill on the engineered hardwoods, that you don't have that same kind of issue that you would have with hardwoods. Yeah. But at the same point, then if you have, say you have dogs, you have hardwoods, you have engineered hardwoods, you're not able to refinish the engineered hardwoods as much, if at all possible, if you are in the first place able to refinish, as you would be able to do with hardwoods, which then there's that not durability, but that longer term of
longevity
use.
Of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because you can do that on a hardwood for
exactly.
This is a topic, this question we actually probably could spend a full day on. So that just gives you a little glimpse of, some of the things where quality of materials does matter.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's going to make a difference. Moving on to the next question. What should homeowners consider when deciding between renovating an existing space or just adding new square footage to their home?
So adding square footage to your home is going to be a more open-ended question. So that can relate to, are you going to go up or are you going to go out? Are you going to add an additional story? So you have a single story rambler home. Are you going to add a second story, or are you going to add to a 1 or 2 story home that is currently 2 stories that you can add out to add more space to that same home? There's so many variables in this. So I'll try to go through a handful of them right off. First and foremost, a lot of people are going to live in home neighborhoods that have an HOA, and also just the requirements, whether it be with the HOA, or be with the city or county that they live in. And that comes to the point of, can you add more what we call footprint of the home to the land, the actual property? There's always a percentage of what is allowable. So the city or the county would have those answers. Say, hey, you can only do 40% of your property is able to be impermeable, and you're at 35%. And to add the additional square footage out would go past that 40% mark. Then that's not a possible way of doing it. But on the other end of it too, is going to be, if you're going to go out, we're talking foundations, we're talking the framing, we're talking about the groundwork that would be involved in that. So a lot of, again, going back to neighborhoods, can you get a machine like an excavator or something back behind there to dig all that dirt out? Because most home communities have their homes 5-10 feet apart.
Right.
So you have a fence line that is 5 feet apart, and again, a lot of people seeing these machines that they can get very large, but can you fit a machine that needs to fit between a house and their fence line that is under 5 feet? Most of the time, yes, but sometimes not. So that adds into the labor part of it too. Going back to building up, this becomes, and actually across on either end of it, there's structural engineer requirements that would needed to be done, architectural work potentially as well. But going up, you want to verify that your foundation is strong enough to handle that additional load, because you have to think about that. You're putting easily thousands of pounds more of material, people, as furniture, you name it, as the house is being used. Can that foundation structure be able to hold all this additional weight? And if it can, then adding up it can easily be done. You add that square footage. We would work out design aspects of how to add, if need be, stairs or access to the place. Because if you just have bedrooms, like 2 bedrooms side by side, and you try to add behind those, how to add, like, say, a hallway,
right,
to access that next room or rooms, whatever it may be. So it's an either or question on this. It really is dependent on those topics of, can you do it?
Yeah, if you can do it, but then you coming in, looking in an existing space, okay, we want to create an extra bedroom. How can you take maybe some space from another bedroom or a playroom or add a wall? Like looking at all of that logistically and seeing where they could make some changes in the existing space. If that's not feasible, if it's not doable, then okay, we might need to add on. There's options, like just creating options.
There can definitely be options. Really, it comes into my first question to a client that would bring that to me is, what is the purpose of this new space?
Right.
Say you have a 3-bedroom home and it's just you and your partner, or just you. And you're like, hey, I don't need 3 bedrooms. I would like to make a master suite. I have a 1960s, 1970s 3-bedroom rambler, and I don't need all that space for it. And again, back in those days, their master bathrooms were lack of a better word, small. It
Very
didn't make
small.
sense. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there was
With carpet.
a lot of people were somehow shorter and
I don't
just
know.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
So going into if there's maybe not even a bathroom for the master already, is we usually can say, hey, let's knock down the wall between two of the bedrooms. Let's add a master suite. Let's add the bathroom. Let's add a walk-in closet. Gaining that larger space, giving them that environment for them to, at the end of the day, that's their place of
Serenity.
Peace.
Yeah.
So it's those kind of steps. With those suggestions, though, we also I would like to mention this on this too, is that separate from drawings and separate from having to go through permit for these kinds of things, because we're adding bathrooms, we're adding a different layout that is on record. The other part of it too would come down to, when I suggest this to clients, is that you break down the fact that your house is labeled on record as a 3-bedroom. Now it becomes a 2-bedroom. But again, it goes back to the real main question of how long you're going to be planning on living in the home. If you're going to be there for quite some time, this would make sense. So there's just lots of questions that we like to ask the clients and make sure that it works for them and make sure that they're informed as much as they possibly can to make the right choices.
I mean, they're looking at their short term and long term, and you're going to bring all those questions to light.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Where it makes the most sense. Okay. So we've talked about some of the renovation projects that will provide the most bang for their buck. So tell us about a few that won't be good for return on investment, where people are like, oh, I really want to do this, but it's actually not going to make any difference for the resale value.
Great question. Again, it's hard to kind of put that into context here. So I guess the first and foremost is doing something that would not fit either the home, would not fit the community. So, you're trying to update a home that, the rest of the community is more colonial look. And you're like, hey, I would want to really make my home a box modern look, flat roof, boxed out, whatever. Changing that whole prospect of it, in my eyes, tends to not only bring, I don't want to say brings their full resale down. It's not like you're going to, your house is worth, say, $800,000 and then it's going to bring it down to $600,000 just by doing that. But at the same time, it goes back into really supply and demand. Like it's who is going to want to buy a home and the availability of that said home. So if someone comes in and they're like, hey, there's 2 homes available. There's this home that gives you option A, and then there's option B, which is that flat home, that square box home. And if they're not looking for that, you have to find a specific audience for that box home. Then you're kind of cutting out a majority, if not a lot, if not all of the possible purchasers, the buyers. That right off the bat, and that in general, whether it's to go into a room where you're like, hey, I want to do the kitchen in this style, but then the rest of the home is a way different style, and you don't plan on doing anything different to the rest of the home. That would also be a suggestion that I'd be like, hey, this might not work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically the aesthetic of the home on the outside should, if you want to update it, match or look similar to the rest of the homes in that neighborhood or in that community. And then additionally, on the inside, if you're, okay, I want marble in my master bathroom, but none of the rest of the house has
melamine.
Yes,
yeah,
has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, why are we spending this money on this?
Yeah, and I think I want to kind of add to this too, is that I talk about free will and the opportunity for people to have all of different choices and whatever. But the other part of it kind of I don't think this really kind of creates a ceiling to stop people from doing it, but you have to think about the fact that what is a majority if you're thinking about resale and you're thinking about equity in the home, and at some point you plan on selling this home, you have to think about that a lot of people in this society have very similar views. So if you are thinking outside the box and you're like, hey, I want to do this, I want to make this custom, I want to make this my own thing, and you have a style that not everyone's going to like,
right?
Then you have to think about, well, is this going to be a value or is this going to be detrimental to me being able to sell the home in 5 years? And so we like we tell all the clients, I personally think 5-10 years ahead of them most of the time to what was going to be helpful, and we're going to give them that knowledge and education. Whatever they do with it, that's them. But I feel that I can sleep at night knowing that I've at least educated.
So on that note, how can homeowners ensure that their renovation projects are completed on time and within budget? Like, what can they do?
I like this. I mean, there's a lot that can be done. In our work, and I actually was just talking to a client about this just yesterday.
Okay. But
in our work, our estimates are pretty accurate as far as what the budget is. Here's our estimate, we provide it to the client, and they are like, okay, this budget works. Our numbers are going to be unchanged unless you have one of two things. Mm-hmm. The first one is going to be change orders.
Yeah.
And that only comes down to if the client is, so we're adding framing or we're adjusting layouts of their home, and they walk in after framing and they're like, after visually seeing this, we want to adjust this. Mm-hmm. We want to move that. We don't like this anymore. Well, that's a change order that would be an additional charge because, of course, that was never part of the first deal. The second part of it comes down to unforeseens and unknowns. So if no one has X-ray vision, I wish I was Superman, but that's never going to be the case. So having the ability to, once we do demo, we can see behind the walls, we can see that if there's issues, we can see if there's rot, we can see that perhaps a previous homeowner did bad electrical in the walls, whatever, plumbing has a leak, you name it. That's going to be the only other time that we're going to get with the client and talk to them, say, hey, this is what we've seen. This is, of course, not listed in the numbers, but this is what it's going to cost to do, and then have them approve. Mm-hmm. Past that, our numbers, I pride myself on making sure that it's beneficial to the client. We keep their budget, because I'm not the type of contractor that says, oh, I underbid this, I need another $10,000 for people, or milk a potential client just because of where they live, or knowing that they might, they have to spend more money because now we're halfway through their construction project and now their hands are tied.
Right.
But the other part, as far as schedule goes, is when we do our plans and our procedures and our process, we start after they've approved the estimate and we've signed the contract, the agreement. We've gotten the deposit. We're in that starting lineup of, hey, we're ready to go. We do allocations. So we have specifics on tile. We have specifics on hey, what the number we've started with for a toilet, for cabinets, you name it. And so they have, I like to call that client homework, because it's the ability for them to, or us, help them design, but it's their time for them to go and be able to choose their products and choose their choices, because I usually will toss in, say, $150 for a toilet. Easily you can buy a $100 toilet, or you can buy a $1,000 toilet, but right. I need to have a starting number, and the client needs to have a starting number to kind of have a basis.
Are they getting the mid-level, the high level, or are they just going with the very entry level?
Exactly.
So you're going to ask them, okay, on every single part of the project, where do you see like this? What kind of product do you want? Okay.
So now, as far as keeping on schedule, the main thing is that it's dependent on when they make those choices or how long those choices are going to take.
Yeah.
And it's also in those choices making sure, because I don't like to start a project without making sure that these products are either in hand or in stock or available to be able to grab. Because
that's what I was going to ask. So if they're doing custom, I mean, we're going to put in a timeline for that.
Exactly.
Because there's, they're 6 months out. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
And I don't want to tear out a kitchen
choice.
I don't want to tear out a kitchen without knowing that the cabinets and the project is going to be on schedule. So like if we're going to tear out cabinets and then we come back, well, we're 6 months later, cabinets or 6 weeks later, cabinets we're planning on being delivered.
Yeah.
Why would I have torn out the kitchen 6 weeks before? Because then now they're down and out. So our schedule process goes with that. I like to make sure that it's in hand, whether it be on site, whether it be in our storage, whether it be in stock. And then that's when we will then proceed with the actual construction schedule.
Okay.
And so past that, I don't like to overlap any of our crews, whether it be electricians, plumbers, any of those contractors we work with. So we have discussions with each of those crews of saying, hey, how long is it? Do you see you needing to do this job? And I usually give each phase in about a week timeline.
Okay.
So what that kind of looks like is we're going to do demo, we're going to do groundwork, we're going to do framing, we're going to do plumbing. And that's basically kind of like a line item of, hey, that's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Plumbers here 1 week, the electricians here the next week, HVAC the next week, so on and so forth. Because whether they need 3 days or they got 5 days, they have the opportunity of up to that 7-day mark. With the fact that if they get done beforehand, then we're good. But if they needed extra time, I'm not having to adjust the schedule, push everyone out, including my timeline and my deadline that I'm hoping to give to the client. So it's worked so far. I feel like it's been a process that has been efficient. The clients like it because I'm able to kind of give them a true schedule that for the most part can be abided by. But then at the same point, everything that is in construction can always be adjusted because that's just how construction goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So next question. Finally, just what advice do you have for homeowners looking to increase the value of their property through renovations while staying within a reasonable budget?
Most of the time, I don't usually ask for a budget because I want to be able to give them the numbers and then have that conversation. I feel like when asking for the budget, sometimes me personally, I feel like that's kind of like, okay, well, it would make the client feel like, well, you said we're going to do 100, so we're going to get to 100 no matter what that might be. Right. So I don't want to. That's why I usually don't ask for budget numbers because I want them to provide, hey, what their list is, what their priority is. Hey, we want to do our master bathroom. We're talking about doing the kitchen, but at the same time, if we are able to do this under budget, we're able to do our master bedroom, or we're able to do the living room, or you name it.
Yeah.
But at the same point, we have those conversations with clients in the hope that we can provide an avenue that can give them direct access to the knowledge, and also once they receive the bid and we've say they in their minds they're at 100,000 and we're at 120. I like to have conversations with them and explain, hey, this is what these are where the numbers came from. So it's a better understanding instead of, hey, here you go, here's a number, and that's that.
Right.
Again, it's education, it's knowledge, because anyone can give a number to a client, but at the same point, if they don't understand why it is, or they've received a bid from someone else that is not apples to apples,
right?
That our estimates are usually very detailed, so it provides everything that the client has asked for, and if there's anything that might have been missing from it to make the client's dreams a reality, is having that be part of it. So then they have the conversation. They're like, okay, well, we did have a budget of 100. You're at 120, and then we have that discussion after the fact of how we can get to a compromise.
To a compromise.
We
Like
need
there's
to,
line items on there.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? We'll take the tile and make it downgrade it, by this to meet this number.
Yeah.
It's not going to be exactly what you want, but it's going to be very similar. It's still going to look beautiful. And so on and so forth. Like there's ways to get to that number.
Yeah.
That they have in mind. I mean, I think sometimes, like you said, people have a number in mind. You might come in and be way lower than that number. You might come in and be like, okay, we can't do it for this.
Yeah.
But we can come darn close if we make some changes.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's the other part of it too, is that if we come in and we're double their budget, or they thought that the budget was way lower, or they expected a number that was much lower than what I've brought in, is there's also the process of that I'm giving them the information of what they asked for, because that's what they asked for. I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to do this because that's not who we are. I want to give them everything and be able to kind of, if we need to, scale back. Yeah. Because really the thing is that they had, I mean, if money was not involved, I mean, we'd all be living in large homes and, I mean, flying in private jets and, doing all these things, but everyone has limits. So the point is, what is that limit and how to kind of get to that limit and to that point? Because then we go back and tell them, hey, we were at 120,000. You said your budget's now 100. The 20,000 we can take away for now, and we make it another phase down the road, a year from now, or whatever is comfortable with them. We give them, hey, this is the top things that you wanted to have done. We can get to, the top part of the list, but we can't finish this one line item because it's outside of budget. But at least what that might cost, because then at that other end of this comes with that the client had a $100,000 budget. They saw what we provided to them, and they say, you know what, 120 makes sense. Let's go with that. That way, again, we've provided them with the information, and then they do whatever they want with it.
Right. No, that makes sense. I think that's all we have on what home renovations will add the most value. So hopefully we answered some questions and you all got some good information from it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.